there's a lot of people in their own life that judge themselves as not being good enough and judge themselves as not wanting to be someone who would give up, because we're in a society of winning. You know, it's just that we need to ask what game it is that we're trying to win.
Good morning to those who have morning right now. Good evening to those who are in America. And this is my new episode of Honest Conversations that I'm going to have with a beautiful woman, Renee Airya. So she's not just a beautiful woman, of course, she's a friend, a person I've known for a very long time. So just right where you're calling in from, I know in US it's evening, not too late evening. Here in Asia, it's morning. And yeah, so I'm from KL, and I think, Renee, you must be in LA, right?
I'm in North County, San Diego. Yeah. Down here in Southern California, where we just found out today that we're even on even heavier lockdown. We now can't go to the beaches or the parks or the trails.
Oh, wow. It's an interesting time, but I'm going to say one thing, especially for those all who joining you. Some of you know me already. I really don't know where this conversation is going to go, because the point is I want to be as honest and open as possible. I know what Renee talks about. So usually when I have honest conversations, I like to talk about the topic of the person who is my guest, but I also like to talk about everything through perspective of how do we as human beings experience this life. Because my main topic is, well, pretty much awareness of your own life experience. So I'm not very likely going to be talking about coronavirus or quarantine. It's not very likely.
Yes.
Because we need, I mean, we need to keep living and to keep doing things that we used to do, and we'll keep doing in the future, in years to come.
Yeah.
But I want to say a few words about Renee. So those of you who don't know Renee, actually a lot of you might know, because Renee is a powerhouse. So she's an author actually on Mindvalley platforms as well. But that's not why she's here. As I said, I've been actually trying to have these conversations with people I enjoy talking to. We hung out with Renee just recently in LA, and we had exactly an honest conversation. We should have been recorded, maybe.
I know. Next time. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I felt, you know, we really should meet online as well. So Renee, you're apart from having a very interesting, miraculous story of how you healed yourself from your brain damage or tumor, which was a long time ago. The other side of Renee, which I really admire and appreciate, is your work with women, empowering women, and the way you talk about that. And the conversation we had is something what I want to maybe pick up here as well, is how do you draw the fine line between emotional abuse and the necessary compromise you have to do for a relationship? Because that it's an interesting topic, because it's been coming back and popping up over the past few months over and over again. And I keep touching upon it, and we had a little bit of a conversation about that in LA. So I felt this is what I want to actually talk about. How do you make a difference between, you know, I have to compromise something for a relationship, or I have to change a little bit, versus, you know, I'm just tolerating the treatment I shouldn't be tolerating.
Yeah. No, you're asking really, really good questions. And of course, I'm not going to propose to have the answer or all the answers there, because we are all so different as humans. We're all living into so many different dharmas and destinies. And I personally believe that every couple that comes together, they really navigate together for a reason, or sometimes for a season. And sometimes it ends up being for a season, because there are continual boundaries, you know, that are being crossed. And there is an underlying consistent feeling of not feeling met, or not feeling understood, or not feeling respected. So I think if I were to try to answer your question around how do we navigate if something is borderlining, you know, abuse, or definitely out of our boundary zone, or if it's just temporary and one of those things where we just need to like hang in there. My suggestion always for almost everything is to create a practice or an experience in your life where you can start to hear your own inner voice. And the reason why this has to happen is because you are the only person really truly that is going to know your answer. We can have other amazing girlfriends and, you know, people around us. And I just pray and hope that everyone has at least another person that's a community member that they can have reflection time with. But specifically how to use that alone time in regards to relationship and boundaries. I would create a daily journal practice or a daily meditation practice where within the practice of being silent, you can start to ask life, ask your higher self, ask the universe, whatever your reference points is for that. Just ask a simple question. Please show me what my long-term relationship is meant to be with said person. Please show me what my short-term relationship is meant to be with said person. The thing is when you get the answer back though, and when you start hearing things, just journal it or let it come into your mind without judging it, because that's a conversation that you're having with yourself most of the time. Those are usually the unfiltered thoughts that we have are generally what our truth is. So I would keep making the inquiry in that silent space. What is my relationship truly to this person? What is this going to most likely look like on a short-term and a long-term basis if I am to stay with this person? And then you can start layering in the more nuanced questions of, okay, how much of a time limit should I give this? Or how can I shift my behavior to maybe get a different response from this person? But to me, this really all starts from a very self-dialogue type of place. That's the first thing. And the second thing that I'll bring up is that I think sometimes, particularly with women, we can get really afraid of our emotions. And we can judge our emotions, the good ones and the bad ones. And I personally believe that some of the more intense emotions that we have is just energy. You know, energy, emotions are energy. So if you're feeling something super intensely that really, really, really bothers you, it's very likely because that is the boundary that's being crossed. That is your own integrity that is talking to you, knocking, you know, on your soul and saying, something isn't quite right here. We need to maybe figure out how we can make a change. So the self-practice, and then also, you know, on top of that, learning how to navigate, you know, your emotions and take them seriously and not shame yourself if you're feeling mad or if you're feeling angry, and also not have to tell yourself, well, I should just get over it. It's like, really, who says? You know, who says that you should just get over it? If something is hurting you and something is hurting your feelings, then you need to be your own best friend and be responsible, you know, for yourself and creating an environment that is going to support and uplift you.
You know, I had an experience also because, well, everybody knows I'm recently separated from my husband. Well, not that recently. And I often hear this comment, you know, you didn't manage, you didn't succeed, you failed. And I'm okay with people judging me as failure. It's fine. It doesn't bother me. But, you know, sometimes I'm trying to explain it to myself as well. When was that line where I said, okay, that's enough? So, because, you know, it's hard for the outside world to see sometimes the logic behind things that you do, and maybe they don't need to see, but being a public person, they keep asking you questions. So I wanted to ask you, and I know you have to be discreet as well a little bit in this answer, but you also had the moment when you had to say goodbye to a person that you truly loved and cared about. Because in my relationship, while I was still married, I often compared my relationship in a marriage to my relationship with children, and I would always say, oh, but I wouldn't give up on a child. So why do we give up on a relationship? Well, I don't classify our separation as giving up on a relationship, but you know, giving up on this form of a relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a lot of projections around exactly the term that you're saying, giving up. There's a lot of people in their own life that judge themselves as not being good enough and judge themselves as not wanting to be someone who would give up, because we're in a society of winning, where it's just that we need to ask what game it is that we're trying to win. And when I hear you share that, what I hear is that you just decided to shift the game that you wanted to be winning, and you wanted to be aligned with the truth versus trying to win at something. Would you rather try to win at something that isn't the truth, or would you rather just be in the truth? And, it really is that I do believe this, that the truth, it does set you free, and the truth sets the other person free. To speak to your point, I was in, I would say for the industry, kind of a high profile relationship for a couple years, very intertwined community. And at the time, this is now not a secret, but at the time, I kind of felt like I was holding secrets on behalf of my partner, because he really wasn't able or willing or even couldn't even actually see kind of the addiction spiral that he was in at the time. So I felt like I was in a position of holding on to all of his secrets, which then made me feel not truthful with the rest of the world. And that's completely out of my integrity. So I would often at night when I'm going to bed, I'm having the feelings of, oh my God, like I'm not being the person of service that I'm really supposed to be in the world, because I'm making it okay to carry on this secret, basically. So I decided to come to the conclusion that for me, a higher level of being aligned to the truth would be just complete liberation and freedom in the entirety of my life. Because the only place in my life that I felt like I was at all being dishonest with the world, was through the relationship. And it was excruciatingly difficult for me, because I was very in love with this person and still have so much love for this person. We just decided to transition what that relationship would look like, and bless his heart, he actually did decide that prompted through my breakup, that he would share more publicly about what was really going on with him. So that's what I mean by the truth doesn't only set you free. Yes, I was depressed. Yes, it took me quite a while, even after getting into another relationship, to feel like I could fully connect and fully express myself again. There was time and healing that needed to happen, but ultimately I was set free, and ultimately he was set free, and now he has a whole business setting other people free from their addictions. So, there's a story here with short-term and long-term. And sometimes we need to be willing to sit in the discomfort and the unsettling and the fear of what can happen when we decide to transition relationships, to sign up for all of the good and all of the rest of the magnificent things that will unfold in the future.
Renee, I know I'm a little bit steering the conversation here, because I still remember some of the things. Well, just for everyone to know, I know Renee actually for more than 10 years.
Yes.
More
we were just babies. We were so,
but we just, oh my
young.
God, it was a different life, wasn't it? And Renee is one of, because I'm a tough person to be close with, because I'm very picky, and I know a lot of people, but not many people can say that they, they get close to me. But Renee is one of these people who I always had a very open heart to. Like I never had, because I'm a suspicious person by nature. I'm like, why do you look at me? What do you want from me? So, of all the people, and especially people, Californians are alien creatures for me, because they are.
That is true.
Yeah.
I'm from the Midwest, though. I'm from Indiana. That's why.
So she was one of the very few people that from the start I felt very safe and good with, and not, I had never any any blocks to open up to you. So, but last a few weeks ago we had like a very interesting conversation. So some of the questions are a little bit influenced by that conversation. So what I wanted to ask is, because you separated after a fairly long relationship, and I've separated after actually we've been together for 19 years. But what I'm catching myself sometimes doing is taking care of, which is still, I'm actually in quarantine with my ex-husband because his apartment is not ready. Yeah. So I would cook things that he like, and I would take care, and I would worry. And sometimes I have a feeling, because, Vishen has a strong personality.
Yeah.
And I'm adjusted to him because I know him for such a long time. I know him from the time when he wasn't what he is right now. And sometimes I look at him and I think like, but who can take care of you as well as I do?
Yeah. It might not be anybody.
So what do we do with our nurturing nature? Because we women are like that. Like, everybody's our little baby that you need to take care of. I need to make your favorite food. I need to offer you tea, make sure you have eaten, actually, all these little things.
Yeah. Well, you're bringing up a really good point for those of us who are caregivers. And it's, I would kind of put that in the category of the mother wound to some degree. Now, where there's a wound, there is also, what did they say? Like the light enters, where there are the cracks, right? So it's like your blessing can also be your curse, sometimes. And so, in this situation, I mean, Kristina, here's the thing. The truth might be is that perhaps no one ever will be able to take care with, I'm not even going to say take care of, I'll say take care with him in the same way that you are able to, and that you can offer. And that's also okay, because there are a lot of other things, that make up life, and that can bring joy and nurturing that aren't necessarily in those caregiving things. But for us women who have, this mothering and have this nurturing and want to be there and want to keep showing up and want our family more or less, because I mean, you two are still family members to some degree, and you share, custody of the children, and you want their father to be thriving. You don't not want him to be thriving, right? But I think it's a wonderful time, for you or for women who are going through the process of transitioning what the role is in relationship, to maybe just put the foot on the gas pedal a little bit more when it comes to those inherent, oh my goodness, like I need to do this, or I have to take care of it, or I'm the only one that can do it. Really just maybe 3 out of the 5 times that you have the reaction or the inclination to be the one to do it, maybe just take a slight step back and say, oh, okay, maybe I should really ask, does he really need this right now? Maybe I should ask, am I really the person that has to or is best suited to give this to him right now? Or how can I make it such that this is a ritual or habit or a caregiving technique that he can implement on his own in his life if he needs it? So, those are ways that you start unraveling the energy cords that are there. We can feel those energy cords, they tug, on us. Yeah. Most of the time they tug on our heart. That's what it is. It's tugging on there going, but I have to, or but I need to. Now also, you probably maybe just people, I should say in general, might not want to hear this part, but there is a secondary gain that's probably there for you, on some level of validation with knowing that you can do something and knowing that you can do a good job at it. So then you get the oxytocin hit also from that, because you know that you're doing something that you're doing a good job at. So you can also give yourself permission to find that same oxytocin, that same confirmation through another way that's not necessarily caregiving to the ex-partner.
Mm-hmm. You know, yeah, I was also with one eye looking at the comments coming in. Just for you guys to understand, of course, I brought cooking as like a little thing because that's what we do right now. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, we have. We're all gonna share food.
Like they say out of the quarantine, you'll come up out either as a good cook or as alcoholic. I think I'm on the way to both because I never cook ever. So, but yesterday I discovered that cooking is like, you know, riding a bike. Once you learn it, you know it forever.
It's so fun. Yeah.
But for me, cooking is always associated with some big event, so I tend to pour myself a glass of wine because, come on, I'm cooking. It happens once a year. But now, of course, it happens every day. But no, cooking was just a little example. The truth is that we do business together. We interact with people together. So when I'm talking about giving, taking care, I don't like, these are simple examples everyone understands. Yeah. But I know he'll feed himself. I know he'll take care of himself. What I'm talking about is more the, you know, I feel like, oh, I want to stay in business because you can trust me. You know, I want to know what's happening here because, you know, you can trust my judgment of the situation of the people. So I was talking about this caretaking way more than cooking or anything because honestly, when it's not quarantine time, I don't do that at all.
The same principles totally apply to that because, you know, the two of you are unraveling and recreating a new identity together in a different way, you know? So within creating this new identity together, the most beautiful invitation for you is to ask yourself what your ideal role would look like in this new relating together, in this new carrying on, you know, in the business together. And if it totally brings you joy and you appreciate it and you want to take on that role, beautiful. I mean, honestly, with my ex, he has asked me with every person that he has dated since me, which is now 6 years ago. He's like, I am really one of the first person that he asks, you know, do you think this is a good fit for me? How do you see this energy aligning? And I feel comfortable in that role because I know him so well and I can read other people so well that I take that on as a compliment, you know, more or less. And that's something I enjoy, having that role with him, you know, like in our relationship. And that's a very small, you know, example. I know you're talking about like a lot deeper things than that, but I think it's important to assess some of the ways that you were in the past, if they should come along with you into what your most expressed and empowered life is going to look like together in the now. And you know, to not feel guilty about it if they're not.
True. Right? Because the truth is that it is a little bit of a trap because just for you guys to understand, Vision also takes care of me, obviously, because he says, you know, that's my obligation as, you know, because you're the mother of my children. But you know what I'm realizing little by little is that there is a little bit of a trap because we kind of live in the past by doing that. And to truly move on, we should be okay to let our loved ones free, completely free. And not, it's like, you know, when the child grows up and goes off to live their own life, how long do you as a mother keep mothering that child? Or do you allow the child to go through his or her, you know, experience of life without you constantly being there, like, oh, I'm here to catch you. So I know that, and as a mother, I'm willing to stay in my child's life forever. But philosophically speaking, is it good for the child?
Well, you know, I think that, are you asking how I feel about it? This is how I feel about it. Things are always, always, always changing. We're not even living in the same world right now that we were living in last week. And I have no idea how I'm going to be caregiving for my son next week or how it's going to be 10 years from now. But I think the beautiful mystery of life and the awesome thing about having free will is that if you constantly are on a path of reconnecting to the truth, things are new all of the time. So therefore, that means that there will probably be many ups and downs of, oh, okay, right now, my Hayden and I are maybe a little bit more independent. Okay, but right now we are a little bit closer together. Oh, but right now he really needs a mommy figure in his life. Okay, but right now he maybe more needs a friend or a sister figure. You know, I don't think that there's any proper way of consistently answering that question, because I do believe it's going to go up and down. I've been with my husband now, not married, because we were quite unconventional and got married after we had Osiris, who was a surprise. But Osiris is my 2-year-old son. But I have seen our relationship go through many stages. I mean, at the beginning of when we got together, I more or less was caregiving for him in the way of helping him to start a business. So I was kind of a mentor, you know, for him, if you will. And over the last couple of years, he's been more so taking care of me on some of those business levels, because I've been breastfeeding and co-sleeping and, you know, all of that stuff. And again, that's a small example, but it just goes to show that I feel like that connecting to the truth and asking with discernment what is needed right now for the highest level of healthy relationship, for my experience with this person, it's going to change. So sometimes you're going to care give, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're going to be dependent, sometimes you're going to be independent. And yes, I do think to some degree that we always are off and on going to be mommying our kids. My mom still mommies me sometimes, but appropriately. You know, she has appropriate momming for me at 45.
My dad used to say how my dad lived in like on a farmhouse in the forest in Estonia, so kind of wild life.
I love Estonia.
Something that would be perfect right now, because the closest neighbor was like 3 kilometers away from them. Talking about social distancing. I'm Estonian. I'm very comfortable with people staying away from me as far as possible.
Oh my goodness. Kristina, I need to send you a meme. I actually just saw one the other day that said, I was people distancing far before this corona thing. I sent it to you.
But my dad said they used to have a neighbor, and she was 80 years old, and every time she'd come to visit them, she'd like, have you seen my baby? He's like, and her baby was 60. So,
yes. I did, though, in all transparency, I had a talk with my dad a couple, maybe like 4 years ago, because he kept calling me baby, like everything was baby, and I finally had to say, can we stop with this now? I'm like, actually, there's something that kind of makes me feel uncomfortable about it. And this actually weaves back to the beginning of our conversation, because every time he would say it, something would feel like I would get anxiety about it. I just I felt weird and I felt kind of gross and weird and not good about it. So I finally brought up something to him. My dad is super sensitive and a beautiful soul, and I didn't want to hurt his feelings, but I wanted to honor that. I don't know, I felt like a boundary somehow was being crossed. So I had the conversation with him, and he said, okay, I'll stop saying it, but it's not because I want to, it's because you're asking me to. Then of course I had kids. And now that I have a kid, I went back to my dad and said, oh my God, I'm so sorry, because now I understand what you were saying. But that's a beautiful example of having a boundary, in speaking it. And my dad was so respectful, of my boundary, and didn't even take it personally, and said, that's okay. And I felt good and not weird about it, because he didn't call me baby at 44 years old at the time.
I think we all can remember this. I was just reminiscing my own moment when I was pregnant and my mom called me a child. I was like, Mom, I'm visibly pregnant. I'm about to have a child. But you know what I wanted to ask, because you just mentioned it. You said that you knew that your dad was hurt by your request.
Yeah.
So because we all have these situations in our life where we have to draw a line. And we love the person. And the question is not always I'm scared that this person is going to disappear out of my life. Yeah. The question is that I'm scared of hurting that person. So how do you deal with that situation where you understand that the question is either I'm hurting myself and I'm conscious and I choose to keep hurting myself, and
Yeah.
I'm going to hurt a person that I really love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is an amazing question. And I think what you're asking is really the premise for having courageous conversations. And which is, to be honest, it's one of my favorite things to do, because I feel like people in the world, we're really crying out for these courageous conversations. And, you know, most people just don't know how to approach them, or they feel a huge sense of responsibility with it, you know, or fear with it. But I can tell you how I enter into courageous conversation. Once again, it goes back to finding the place of truth. And so I'm just going to use that example with my dad again. So the truth was that I didn't love the vocabulary that he was using towards me, but I recognized that he was saying that because he still considers himself to be my dad and my caregiver, you know, in some way, and that he was coming from a place of love with where he was speaking from. So I had to up level it to, okay, what is the highest outcome that I'm looking for in having this conversation? So when in that conversation, it was that I would be able to speak my truth, and I would do it in a kind and loving way, that I would be heard for speaking my truth in a kind and loving way. And I would be kind and loving with the response that I would get back from my father. So for instance, even if he didn't come right back to me and say, oh, okay, I didn't realize that was making you feel uncomfortable, I'll stop. If he would have come back to me and said, oh my God, like, this is awful, and I'm just going to keep calling you that because it's something that's true for me and you just need to get over it, I would have kept asking him questions and wanting to go deeper into his experience until the two of us were able to see each other clearly and come to a common agreement that felt good for both of us. So when you enter into the courageous conversation, it's very important to bring with you loving kindness, listening, and entering in from the energy of the outcome that you want. You can't enter the conversation from a place of fear of what the person is going to think, or that you're going to communicate things not correctly, or that the worst case scenario is going to happen, because you're not believing in yourself or the other person if you're doing that, and you're failing basically before you even have the conversation. So you have to love yourself enough and love the other person enough that you're holding the ultimate outcome with you when you're going into the conversation. Does that make sense?
You know, I really love when I ask you fairly simple questions, you give such profound, deep,
I don't know,
and a little bit unexpected answers. Just to, you know, we are on the same wavelength, though. I don't know if you can see, guys, but I have these two words. Maybe it's...
kind. Yes, kind and brave. Exactly it.
That's exactly what you were talking about, kind and brave. You know what I wanted to ask?
Oh, but can I say one more thing about that? Because we actually talked about this in the conversation that we're kind of referencing, that we had a sistership conversation a couple weeks ago. I think that often we don't give people enough credit. And sometimes it's understandable based on the history that we've had with a certain person. But I will say in general that people are so much more capable of making change than what we actually give them credit for. So when I have courageous conversations with people, I really truly believe in the person. I don't come to them from a place of, oh God, that's my mom, or that's my ex, or blah, blah, blah. And that's just the consciousness that they have. Or it doesn't matter what I say. They're not going to, you can't come from that place. You literally need to be speaking to their soul and invoking them forward. So I just wanted to share that, because I think that's, it's
Renee,
not important for courageous conversations. It's just important for getting along with people in the world.
You know, I really appreciate that you added that, because this is a huge point, that when you go into that conversation, you have to have faith in that person. Yes. Because often when we are going into brave, courageous conversations, it's because we think that it's a fight, that it's a struggle, and that also means that you don't have faith. So here I have another question which is on my mind, and I'm trying to formulate it. But there was this concept maybe 10 years ago. I heard it for the first time, but it's been around, of tough love. And this is something which rubs me the wrong way.
Yes.
Because I think something is missing in that. Because as I ask, are you willing to hurt another person to, for the sake of your values, of what is true to you? And of course, people might say, I'm being selfish or egoistic, whatever. But that whole thing of tough love, you're going to say your truth no matter what the other person feels, or if you love this person. I have a strong resistance to that concept. Yeah. And I think I start understanding why. But can you explain to me why it could be?
Well, I can explain for you because you're quite feminine. And, I think this actually touches on, I think, some of the other conversation that we were having at the breakfast, lunch, and dinner table, because our conversation
just for people to understand, we met with Renee for brunch, which is breakfast
a couple of weeks ago.
And we finished with the post-dinner drinks.
Yes, it was a very long conversation. Okay, I'll just say it how I see it. I think that tough love and the concept of that is purely based on laziness. Really, truly, I do feel that way because it's one-sided. And being one-sided is inherently just being very lazy. It's narcissistic and is not willing to take the time to see different perspectives and to be able to learn from that. So I think that you definitely don't resonate with the concepts of tough love because you're such a figure outer. You stand for unity and you stand for the good of all. And there's nothing really about tough love that stands for the unity or even having a conversation. It's a dictation versus a conversation. Now, what I'll share about some of the concepts of tough love that I do resonate with, I do believe in personal empowerment. I do believe that it is very important to know your truth and to speak your truth and to basically have a life implemented around what your truth is. I think that is all very, very important. And there are extraordinarily powerful ways of being able to show up in your truth and live a life where your boundaries are not getting crossed that is coming from a place of love. I personally believe the more that you love yourself, the more that you radiate self-respect, and the more that you radiate and initiate respect with other people, that naturally your boundaries are going to be crossed less and less and less because you are standing as a solid light pillar in the love that you are for yourself and the love that you are for another person. It's not by force, it's by power. It's very different. Force and power are very, very different things. And I think that, we can even probably reference a lot of even global officials right now where we can see the difference in what power is and what force is.
I understand this because some people are also commenting. Just for the background, I resonated with the idea of tough love because I get it. If you know your truth, you have to stand in it. But somewhere deep inside, I have a strong feeling that there is a difference between staying true to what is important to you or to your values, to your boundaries, versus versus trying to push someone or force someone. It's different. It's what you said. This is power versus force. Power is what it creates that boundary. Force is when you try to push that boundary outside yourself. So it's hard to explain, but I think this is the topic I'm going to keep thinking about because there is something and you put the words into that. It's this whole idea is that there is no conversation in that, because even if I stand for, because when I when I told my family that me and Vision are separating, we had this moment where I could ask myself, was I doing the tough love thing, or was I doing something else? Because I know that the close people, they were hurt by our decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, that's the point about your own values, is that you are willing to stand for them no matter what.
That's
but
right.
let's leave it there, because it's very complicated.
Well, you know, this is something I think that's really good to add to that, because I see this a lot in the personal development worlds. So it's an invitation for a deep inquiry, I guess, into how the people who are here with us right now, how they feel about it in their hearts. But something that I haven't deeply resonated with, that I see a lot in the thought leadership and personal development worlds, is the idea of, okay, we'll just get rid of that person. Like if this isn't fitting, then cut it out, or let it go. And I'm not saying that doesn't need to happen sometimes, but what I'm proposing is that there is a part of all of that back to this force versus power thing. It's extraordinarily patriarchal. Like, it has to be one or it has to be the other. And I just prefer to live life in a more unified and a more inclusive way. And also from the perspective of, I know that there's a lot of things that I don't know. And, you know, perhaps there are ways that I've been showing up with some of these people that I just want to axe out of my life, that I can actually improve on. And also, this is a very interesting thing, is that sometimes we want to take those people even out of our sphere of existence that we might feel less than, or that we might feel we have competition with, you know, on some level. And we don't want to be faced with feeling less than or not feeling good. What if we just flip the perspective of, oh, I'm feeling competition with that person because they're actually showing me something new that I can rise to in my own life. And if I paid attention to that, instead of I need to get it, you know, out of my life, then I might actually have a healing experience. So it's a very deep conversation. We could probably talk about this for an hour.
Oh my God, Renee, you are I'm definitely going to have another conversation with you, because I feel that we've touched upon so many topics, and maybe we should go deeper into certain topics. I want to ask, just for a little interaction, I want to ask people who are listening in right now to share, if you have a person, just say, I have a person, you don't have to say who it is, in your life with whom you feel that there is still a conflict within you that you don't understand. Are you actually compromising for the better of a relationship, or are you allowing emotional abuse? Because I think we all, just say, do you have a person like that in your life? Because I think we all come across that sooner or later, because often we stay in that because we love the person so much and we don't understand, am I giving up on a person right now, you know, or am I giving up on myself? Yes. So Renee, you know, we don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to ask that thing, because you kept talking about honesty, and I think I'm a pathologically honest person.
Yeah, me too. Sometimes to a fault. Yeah.
And honesty is such a thing, and I'm not talking about radical honesty. I won't tell you everything that I think, but if you ask me, I'll tell you honestly. So, and I feel this is probably the thing that has set me free. With honesty, it's the thing where when you switch it on, you can't switch it off. But the question that I want to ask you is something a little different, because we all believe that we are honest, yet oftentimes and that might be just my judgment of people, but oftentimes I feel that that there are a lot of people who maybe, you know, the thing with delusion is that you never know when you are deluded.
Yes.
So I sometimes feel that, because if you ask around, everybody will say, of course I'm honest, of course I'm honest. How do you have your own? Because that makes me feel a little unsettled, because I would see people do things and I question, like, are you being even honest with yourself, or is it you trying to be something which you are not, or trying to feel in a way that you're not? How do I know that? Because that's their problem, that's their life. But how do you know about myself that I'm actually being honest with myself to the very core? I'm not lying to myself, I'm not being hypocritical, versus, you know, maybe I'm just delusional and I'm not aware of that.
This is a very, very good question. I feel like, okay, this is a great question. I actually haven't thought about it before, but this is what's coming up. And maybe this will change, but this is what it is for me in this moment. I feel like the soul always knows when it's being honest or not. And I feel like the personality cannot see itself entirely clearly. And we put a lot of projections onto ourselves for the people that we want to be and that we want to be seen as. And this all comes through the lens of, you know, our ego or our personality, which, by the way, we all need to have an ego. So I'm not speaking this from the perspective of, like, you know, kill the ego. That's not what I'm saying. I feel like most people I know that I've witnessed that split, let's just say what you're saying, there's kind of a split with, okay, well, I don't know, like, I'm witnessing that you're not actually being fully honest with this. Like, I see it really clearly. I think that often people just don't want to admit that they're seeing themselves do something that's not honest, and that's totally from the personality. But I think if that person or us, you know, goes into the space of solitude, of meditation, of journaling, of really asking the deeper questions to ourselves, that we most likely in that space, we do get our truth. And then a lot of people live in the middle of knowing what the truth is, but not knowing how to wrangle their personality and their ego yet, so that they can all become friends and live one single unit of life, which I find to be the most liberating way to live life, because you don't ever have any secrets. You know, when you're living a streamlined life of your soul and your ego being one, you really are living a completely holistic life. So yeah, to answer your question, I think that it's only the ego and only the personality that is unaware of its actions of not living in integrity.
Because, you know, sometimes I want to talk to the souls of people, but I'm not sure if I can hear them, or maybe I can, and I am being delusional, thinking that everybody is a little different than what I think they are. Anyway, yeah. It's a struggle I've been having lately.
You know what I do in those situations? I make a commitment. I make a commitment if they are people that I know that I choose to have in my life. I was going to say have to, but it's never that. If it's people that I choose to have in my life, then I make the commitment to keep bringing in the soul conversation, to keep approaching the conversations from a place of depth and calling the soul forward on an energetic level and also on a conversational level. And then also realizing with some people that it is just going to require a lot of patience, and that I'm just meant to be the space holder, you know, for them.
You know, a very cynical post-Soviet voice in me says, but maybe I'm just being, you know, feeling better than the others. Maybe the person is the way they are, and that's how it's supposed to be. And why do I want to shake them up and see something which they choose not to see, or maybe it isn't there. Maybe what you see is what they are exactly. Yeah. So I have this internal struggle.
Well, but here's the thing, because we're not just living life with only people's souls. So if the majority of the way a person is showing up in the world is from the actions that you're getting and the experience that you're having with the person is not pleasurable and it's not congruent, then you don't need to keep showing up and with the person coming from the soul level perspective. I mean, there is that. The people in general show you who they are. And, you know, whether we choose to listen or not is on us. Mm-hmm. And that's why you then have to take in that conversation about why is this person in my life? What role am I supposed to have with them? You need to listen to your own soul. You have to get feedback about what your role is in their life and how you're going to continue to show up with them in a way that is going to make your life feel good and livable.
You know, Renee, thank you. I've had so many moments already that like totally opened up something new in me. And even from last conversations, there were two things that stuck with me so much. One thing was that, you know, sometimes you have to allow the person to not be taken care of, because that will help them grow. And I realized that I should allow myself to not being taken care of, because there are areas where I've become so complacent that, you know, knowing that there is someone taking care of that part is actually kind of blocking me from discovering something new. And another thing which stuck with me, and that probably stuck with me even more, and maybe in some foreseeable future we'll have another conversation with you on that topic, was when you said that this decision that you made when you parted ways with your previous partner that you loved so much, that you were making it not just for yourself but for all the other women. Because that wow, this thing has been in my mind forever, because every time now I make a decision, sometimes I so want to comfortably, you know, go back in what I know, but then I'm like, what lesson am I? And I know Eve might not be even witnessing it right now, but I'll be telling her stories, you know, I'll be sharing my experience with her. So I'm thinking of Eve, of my daughter, and thinking what kind of a woman I want her to be. Because people know I'm a feminist, a new wave feminist, whatever you feel about this word. But I believe that we women have to figure ourselves out. We are not there yet.
We are the world. Who we choose to be, for each one of us, who we choose to be is our world. Therefore, we are the world to everyone else around us. So, you know, I mean, my interest, first and foremost, out of anything in this life is who we be in the world. I'm most interested in people's characters. I'm most interested in having my most empowered and integrated characteristics be aligned, you know, with my values. And I do believe that when one woman awakens and lives a life of awakening, that we spontaneously open the doors, we hold hands with, we create, you know, more space and more inspiration for the mothers, the daughters, and the sisters to walk through. So I really am so proud for you, Kristina, and being your friend and seeing you walk very gracefully with how you are. And I also want to share that I don't think you're picky. I just feel like you have really refined taste, and you have you do know who you are, and you know what your preferences are, and you take a stand with that, you know, in your choices and how you show up in the world. But it's always been my experience that it's been from a place of intellect and from a place of self-knowledge. So I want to thank you for being who you are, and for inspiring me, and for having me on tonight. This is so fun. I literally can't believe that I've been up here for almost an hour without my 2-year-old. I need to do this more often.
Yeah, maybe I have a lot of thoughts in my head as to, you know, maybe we should be, not maybe, I know we need to continue this conversation, and I know I have some men in my audience, but also for the women, because we women need a sisterhood, which we haven't been really having there, because our sisterhoods were mostly very like behind the closed doors. We've had sisterhoods, we've had, you know, family members to support each other and close friends, but the biggest sisterhood and on a social level, that needs to start happening. So yeah, let's do this more often. So I hope we'll continue this conversation. And
absolutely,
Renee, my huge love for you. I'm really feeling that, you know, I've missed out a few years in between when we didn't interact as much, but thank God you're still in my life, and I'm sure it will go deeper, because truly every time I talk to Renee, I have so much to think about. Like last we talked was in February. It's almost the end of March, and I'm still referring to the things that Renee said then. So
thank you.
Thanks a lot. And traditionally, I want to ask people who are online right now to send Renee a heart.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And thank you for your comments. After we get off sometime tonight, I definitely want to pop in there and share some love with all of you. And thank you so much for all of the men on the call. You know, I absolutely take a stand for women supporting men, you know, as well. The men have really also been having quite a tough go, and you guys have a lot of things projected onto you for your roles, you know, in life as well. So I'm always happy to help bring together, you know, the sexes in unity and have us all be working for the better good together.
Yeah, because it's about balance. It's not a fight. It's not an argument. Balance. We need, like, biologically, we need each other. There's no question about that.
There is no question there.
As a species, we need each other.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Kristina. Have an awesome day today.